Hey guys, it's Race Booth back with Halal and Hungry. Today we're making ramen. Yes, you guessed it, we're making ramen. Okay, so today we're going to be deconstructing and re-elevating these ramen packets. So as you can see, we have two different flavors here. It doesn't really matter what flavor we're going to use because we're not using the seasoned packet inside. We're not using it at all, I repeat. I repeat, once again, we're not using it at all. Now, if you look at the serving size for these packets, half a block of noodles and half a packet of the seasoning has 790 milligrams of sodium. Is that not crazy? Because I know people, my brothers, who use the entire packet of seasoning and the entire packet of noodles. They're having almost 1,500 milligrams of sodium in one bowl of noodles. Is that crazy to no one else? That's shocking. Let's move on to our other ingredients. So ramen is basically a noodle-based soup that originated in China but became popular in Japan. It's basically noodles, broth, and a whole bunch of toppings. Now you can have one topping or you can have 15 toppings. It's all ramen. So today we're going to be using chicken. You can use fish, you can use beef, you can use anything you want. It can be vegetarian. But important thing is to keep it halal because remember, we're on Halal and Hungry. For toppings, we're going to be using mixed vegetables, peppers, onions for flavor, and spinach. Today I'll be making 2 bowls of ramen, one for me and one for my dad. So I have 2 cups of mixed vegetables. If you're only going to make 1 bowl, I advise you only use 1 cup of vegetables. I have 1 cup of peppers. Depending on what you like for peppers, I don't really like peppers that much, so I'm only going to put a little bit in. But if you really like peppers, go ahead and put 1 cup in. Onions, I would use half of onion for only 1 bowl. Since I'm making 2, I'm going to use a whole onion. That onion's going to be diced or cubed, however you cut it. Today I have 1 cup of spinach. Since I'm using whatever's inside my fridge or cupboards, I'm going to keep my spinach even though I don't really like it that much. So add more or less depending on your preference, or don't add it at all. I love ramen so much because it's so versatile and you can add whatever toppings you want. I don't want anyone going outside and buying anything because that's a waste of time. As long as you have a packet, some water, and some toppings, you're good. So, now that I'm talking about the broth, let's go ahead into it. I have chicken broth because it's already pre-flavored, but I also have water for those that don't have any chicken broth. I'm just going to simply show you how to add seasoning and spruce it up so it tastes as good as chicken broth would. To go on my entire bowl of ramen, I'm going to add some sriracha because, you know, I'm a spicy gal. And we're going to have eggs, which brings me to my next thing. If you guys watched my previous videos, I did an unboxing of a whole bunch of different cooking appliances. Today I'll be using 3 of those. I'm going to be using my Duck's Top induction cooktop, my Duck's Top cooking pots and pans, and my egg boiler. Remember that notorious egg boiler that supposedly you can make eggs in 3 minutes? Yeah, okay. So, to continue on, let's get started. So, since this is new, this is going to take me a few minutes to figure out. So it says on. Okay, that's weird. Why is this whole thing vibrating? So it says the temperature is currently at 320. I'm going to higher that to 350. Okay, it does not go to 350. It goes from 320, 340, 370. So I'm going to put it at a 340. And for heating, I'm just going to leave it where it is. So I'm going to add some oil just to get it started. And we're going to start off with the onion so that it can cook down while we season our chicken. I'm just going to move this oil around a little bit and wait for that to heat up a little bit. So guys, let's all be careful. Whether we're using a hot plate, an induction cooktop, or a stove, we want to be careful because it's very hot. You see all this steam coming up. This might look like it can give you a great facial, which it does, but we have to be careful of the bottom part because it can be very hot. Now let's start adding the onions. I love that sizzle. I'm going to move this around. And while these are sweating, which is when they released all their liquids, I'm going to turn it down so that we can season the chicken. So I'm going to turn it down to about 260 and see how it's doing after we season the chicken. So here we just have cube chicken, regular chicken breast. You can use chicken thighs, but remember, try to keep it cubed so that you can eat it inside of your ramen bowl without having to use your hands or whatever. Just you can use a spoon, a fork, chopsticks, that thing. So today we're seasoning our chicken with black pepper, we're using black pepper because it's a very good seasoning. You know, that's what you put in everything. Pepper is good. Pepper is great. It just gives everything a little bit of taste. I'm also going to add a little bit of salt. You remember how I said we're not going to make this a sodium-full soup? Just 1 or 2 cracks, just so that I can get a little salt in there, you know, get a little extra flavor. Now, these are not the only seasonings we're using. We are going to use wagwan. Yes, the notorious wagwan that just makes everything taste better. So, as you remember, there's a hot version and a regular version. It's an all-purpose seasoning that you can use in anything. Today I'll be using the hot version because I love spicy. So just stir it around a little bit, and I'm going to put 1 or 2 things in. Depending on your spice level, you could put 1 spice, 1 not spice, depending on what you want. I'm just going to throw a little third one in there. And now we're going to head in and mix that chicken together to get all that seasoning in. Now, I already washed my hands. I love to get hands in, and I'm going to mix the chicken in, just so that I could get it everywhere I want it. With using the spoon, you might not get to every crevice. With your hands, you will. So I'm just going to mix that all together. Give that a little thing. Now, don't over season it, because you don't want to have it too spicy, because we're going to then season it later with the vegetables and when we put the broth in, or if you use water. So just be mindful of that. Now, take a break, because no one wants cross-contamination and get salmonella. So now that we washed our hands, we're going to head back over to those onions. Now, they might look burnt, but these are really good onions because we want flavorful onions. We're going to head in, take the chicken, and just drop it right in. I'm going to mix this all with the onions. And I'm going to lower the heat just a little bit because I don't want to overcook the chicken. I'm going to turn it down to about 220. And then I'm going to put the lid on. Now that we put the chicken inside the pot, now we're going to head over to those eggs. Now this is the egg pod that we recently opened up. I'm just going to read the instructions and walk us all through how to use this quick cooking egg pod. Now the first step is to obviously open the egg pod. Then they want you to fill this, which is 50 milliliters of water, to put inside of it. So I have some water right here. This is just regular tap water, nothing special about it. Hopefully I don't make a mess. Okay, perfect. Now that we filled that, the next step is to place 4 eggs into the bottom tray. Okay, let me get my 4 eggs. So these are regular white large eggs, nothing special. You can also use brown eggs, but whatever you have at home, remember you don't have to go out and get anything, unless of course you don't have eggs. That's a serious problem. Now, the next step is to put the water at the bottom of the container. So as you can see, it's not too much water, and the 4 eggs go inside each of the slots. Good? Great. So now we're going to put this back on. Okay, are we going to get back on? Yes, we are. You flip up the tabs to lock it. And now it says we're going to put it inside of the microwave to cook for 9 minutes at the highest setting. Well, it says cooking time may vary based on microwave wattage, size of eggs, etc. If eggs are not cooked perfectly, add or subtract cooking time in 1-minute intervals to find the ideal cooking time for your microwave. First thing, how are we going to subtract time if we already got to 9 minutes? Now guys, I'm using large white eggs and my microwave is 900 watts. So let's just see how that goes. And if you have a higher wattage or a larger egg or a smaller egg, just try to estimate it based off of my cooking time. Now let's put that inside the microwave. So you put the eggs inside the microwave for 9 minutes, and now we're going to check on the chicken. I turned down the pot just a little bit to refrain it from burning, and I'm just going to move it around a little bit. Now I'm going to add the toppings. So I'm going to add these peppers. I'm going to add the mixed vegetables. And I'm going to add the spinach. Remember, you can use any type of toppings you want. Just make it your own and make it the way you like it. So I'm just going to stir this around a little bit as this chicken is cooking. So as you can see, I'm mixing it around just to get everything involved, everything put together. And you can see the peppers, the spinach, and the mixed vegetables are just going right in there. So while we're waiting for this egg pot to finish, we're going to chuck that chicken. So it looks pretty good. Everything's looking great. Let me get my pot holder. And we're just going to move this around a little bit with the tongs because we're preparing to take it out. It's already good. And if you're a little skeptical about it, you can actually check the chicken and make sure. And as long as it's white on the inside, no red, I repeat, no red, because no one wants raw chicken, we're going to take it out. So we could just get a bowl now. So as you can see, there's some water at the bottom. And we're going to try to keep a little bit in there just so that it can mix in with the chicken broth and the water when we make it. I just love this part, smelling all the food. You could see all the smoke. I definitely smell that Wagwan seasoning, which reminds me so much of all the seasoning I'll put in for just one bottle. It's so crazy. The peppers got nice. And so did the mixed vegetables. And as a reminder, you can use any type of vegetables you want. You can use broccoli, cauliflower. Like I said, you can use kale, you can use seaweed, whatever you want. And everything you have in your cupboard is perfectly fine. So to get a little bit of the water at the bottom, I'm going to use a spoon. Just pick it up with the rest of the stuff. So now we took everything outside of the container. I'm going to put the top on and put it to the bottom of my table so that we can move on. Now try not to close the container because then you're going to trap all the heat and it's going to continue cooking. If you leave the top open a little bit, it will let it cool down. So now we're going to go get the egg pod. Now that we took the chicken outside the pot, we're going to add our broth. So first, I'm going to use the chicken broth. So I have 2 cups in here, but since I'm making 2 different bowls, I'm only going to use 1 cup. So let's see. And it's just going to stop sizzling because I have so much in there. I'm just going to move that around a little bit with the spoon. And I'm going to season it a little bit. Since we're bringing that to a boil, I'm going to switch from temperature to heating on my induction cooktop. And the higher I put it, the faster it's supposed to boil. So hopefully, it'll cook just as good. Let's go get that egg pod. So we got the egg pod back. And now, the next instruction, the 7th instruction, even though in the box only has 3 instructions, it says place egg pod in the sink and carefully remove the top. Run cold water for 2 minutes. Now, I'm sorry, guys, you can't really see all these steps because my sink's over there. But I just want to point out that why is this taking so much longer than it does to boil some water? We had to wait 9 minutes in the microwave, 2 minutes for it to cool down, and 2 minutes to run water over it. How is that not, like, it's blowing my mind. Why are we taking so long to cook some eggs? But let's go run some water over it. While we're running cold water over our eggs, we're going to open this up and see how our broth is doing. So now you can see it's kind of boiling. It's over here simmering. So I think we can add the noodles in. So I'm going to use whatever noodles because remember, it doesn't matter what flavor we use. I'm just going to use the shrimp one because we won't need this. Let's add that in just to open the noodles up a little bit because you remember we don't want hard rock noodles, okay? Now I'm just going to mush this down a little bit, run some water over it so that it breaks up. Use a spoon. And you could try to break it down a little bit as it cooks down. It will break apart by itself. But you could just help it a little bit by breaking it apart. Try not to break up the noodles because you don't want short noodles. I mean, I don't want short noodles. We want longer noodles. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit so that we can lower the temp and it can kind of stop boiling. And just remember, move around those noodles. So the noodles have broken up a little bit, and I'm just going to let it sit in here, and we're going to go get our eggs. I'm going to lower it down a lot because I don't want those noodles to get too rubbery or too hard. So for me, the heating is going to turn down to about a 2. You know, I'm just going to let it sit there and keep its heat while we're checking on those eggs. So we got our egg pod out the cold water, and the next step is to, with water still inside egg pod, so I just left a little bit in there. I don't want too much so that when the next step, when I shake it, it doesn't splash everywhere. So it says to hold the unit by its handles and shake vigorously up and down 10 times. Now this should be fun. Okay, remember to lock, guys, because we don't want to have a big cleanup. So it's locked, and I'm going to hold it to make sure that it stays locked. And I'm going to shake it vigorously, which means very fast and very hard, up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it's not very leak-proof, I would say. Got water everywhere. So, water aside, the next step, guys can see that all the shells should be off. Now, guys, if all the shells are off, I'm going to be so amazed. I mean, so amazed. This is the moment of truth, guys. Please, please, please be broken. Oh, okay. That's a little different. Not what I was expecting. But we're gonna work through this, guys. We're gonna work through it. Okay. I'm gonna turn off my broth now because I could hear it, and you don't really want to hear it. I'm just gonna turn this off so it can stay hot. And right when we're done with the eggs, we're gonna plate this thing and make it look beautiful, beautiful. Okay? I'm gonna go get a bowl. So I got my eggs, and I have a bowl for my eggs and a bowl for my shells. So as you can see, we still have a little bit of egg work to do, you know, make it look pretty and such. You know, also no one wants to eat eggs. So I actually got a big clump of this eggshells, which is pretty cool, you know. Usually you have to really go in. So I'm going to take my first one, and there's a hole in it. I don't usually get holes in my eggs, but hey, maybe that's the way they want you to do it. So I'm just going to take some shells off. And you can see, like, it's a little bit dented. I don't know. Like, it looks like someone was stabbing it repeatedly, really hard. And, I mean, you still get that nice egg smell that everybody loves and would smell for hours. So that's pretty cool. We're going to move on to the other ones. This one, the shells are pretty much intact, but it does slide right off. I would say this one's a better one. This one's actually really perfect. I like this one. Let's move on to the other ones. This one, shell practically fell off. And again, I'm also thinking these bottoms are happening because they're having you put them inside, which kind of ruins the whole perfect oval-like shape, which kind of disappoints me. But once again, this is the second good one we had. So currently have 2 out of the 4. And this is the last one. This one pretty much, none of the shell broke off. So we're going to have to go in and break off the shells, which is kind of disappointing and a lot of work, especially after waiting almost 15 minutes for this to come out. Okay, so guys, remember when opening up an egg, you want to be gentle so that you preserve the perfect egg shape at the bottom. And we're just going to peel that away. And this one, it's not even like they made it easier. It's just kind of, you still have to go in and take them out, which is really, really disappointing. I was really hoping for this thing. So we got a good shape out of 3 out of the 4. We had bad peeling issues 2 out of the 4. And these 2 were pretty much perfect for me. You know, they stood out. Remember, you have to take into account your microwave wattage, the size of your eggs, the color of your eggs, all these different variables that can determine how good your eggs come out. So today I use white large eggs in a 900-watt microwave. Now, if you have 1,000 or you have 800 microwave, take that into account. If you have larger eggs or smaller eggs, take that into account. If you have brown eggs, take that into account. If you have speckled eggs, get that checked out, but take that into account. So now that we're pretty much done with all our toppings, I'm going to put this all in the sink and come back with a bowl so we can put this all pretty. So my favorite part, the eating. Wait, we missed this step. We have to plate this thing. So we're going to start off by putting the noodles in. So I'm going to open this pot and I'm just going to move it over here on top of my pot holder. And I'm just going to use some tongs to just take out the noodles. Now I like my noodles nice and mushy. That's just me. If you like your noodles more al dente, or in other words, a little harder, take that into account in your cooking time. And like I said, ramen is for everyone. You can like spicy food, regular food, mushy food, hard food, whatever you want. Ramen's got it for you. That's why I love it so much. So I'm just gonna get all the rest of these noodles in. Now I'm not pouring the entire broth in because I wanted to submerge it over all the other toppings. So now that we got most of the noodles in, I'm gonna go head over and get this nice toppings. So it's looking great. You know, our chicken tasting delicious. And we're just gonna pour a little 1 spoonful in. Remember, not too much because we want this to be a balanced meal. A little bit more chicken. And now, time for the broth. So I'm gonna open this pot once again. And now we can as long as your handles are perfectly fine, I'm gonna take out my tongs. And remember, if they're hot, don't do this. But if they're not hot, perfect example. You could just pour the rest of that broth in. And this rest of the noodles come out with it. Now I have some chopsticks here, which I love to use with even not ramen things. And I'm just going to move this around a little bit, make it a little bit more presentable. And we're done. Wait. We made eggs. So now I'm going to take one of my good eggs. And I'm going to split that in half. I'm just using a regular knife. You don't have to get anything too big. And you're just going to cut right through that. And now you see the cook on the eggs is pretty good. I can't complain. So I'm just going to put this right here. And my sriracha. I love sriracha. Let me shake this upside down. Now, you can use other things besides sriracha. Once again, you can use soy sauce. You can use fish sauce. Whatever you want. But remember, those you have to take into account the sodium levels. You don't want it too salty. You don't want it too... Whatever you don't want, take that into account. You don't want too much. So I'm just going to do a little smiley face because I like to play with my food. That's just what I do. Okay? We're going to put some nice, I'm going to put a little nose there. Okay? Cute, whatever. Got it? Okay. I'm just going to put some pepper. And voila! We have ramen. So our ramen's complete. Everything's done. And now it is definitely time for my favorite part, to eat this. So you can see I like a lot of broth in mine because I like to slurp it at the end. But if you like less broth, remember, less broth, whatever you want. This is not a set in stone recipe. You can do whatever variations you like, whatever you have on your counter, whatever you want to do it. So let's take a little piece of this, shall we? Shall we? Okay. Oh, so good. So good. See you guys next time on Halal and Hungry. Peace out. Oh God, that's delicious.